careful what you tell yourself. You know, you bring about what you think about and you bring about what you talk about. You need to be your own best friend. You need to talk to yourself like you'd talk to your best friend or to the person you care about most in the world. I mostly survived childhood. It was a fearful neighbourhood where if you walked out the house, you're just as likely to get punched as said hello to.
Who is Ted and where does Ted come from? I've wanted this guy on for so many months and we could not align our dates, but today I have the privilege of having Ted Thacker on the podcast. I'm not going to tell you anything about him. I'll leave that up to Ted. He's a humanist. He's lived a long and interesting life. He's got a deep understanding of people now, but he's been on his own journey and there's so much to learn. It's so deep. This is a podcast for everybody. I think we're going to do it in 2 parts. Tune in. The value is massive and it's for absolutely everybody. But I've been looking forward to this, as you know,
Yes.
for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and my apologies. We've had to put it off several times.
Oh, that's all right. Life intervenes.
Life intervenes.
And that's a
it
lesson
has
in
this
itself,
year.
isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
One of the reasons I've been looking forward to it for so long is you're one of the few people, and I don't say this to pump you up, I mean it, who walks the planet that I know, that I truly respect, and I know has an incredible depth of understanding, which I'm going to dive into a little bit more because I think it'll benefit people so much. I feel like it's a privilege to actually have this conversation, to be able to share it with people. There've been tens, maybe hundreds, I don't know, of people who've paid you to sit and have conversations. So this is like a freebie for everyone.
Well, you are gracious.
Oh, there we go. So not that necessarily the next question paints a picture of the level of depth, because I don't think it does, but it might be interesting for people to understand who is Ted Thacker and where does Ted come from. And then we might start piecing together a few of the other bits, not in any particular order.
Well, one of the things I guess we should talk about is the power of self-knowledge and self-awareness, being really aware of one's strengths and limitations. So it is a good question, context question. Where have I come from and what have I then leading into what I've learned is, kind of that's interesting in itself, because I grew up in a very poor family with very young parents who were kids themselves really, didn't know what they were doing parenting-wise, kind of met up. I don't even think got married. My dad was a bus driver. My mum didn't work. We were lucky enough to get a state housing house in the back of a little place called Cloverdale in WA, and grew up with a school of hard knocks, really. It was a fearful neighbourhood where if you walked out the house, you're just as likely to get punched as said hello to. And the parents struggled through marriage and parenting, really. So I learned fear and what fear could bring very early on. And I mostly survived childhood.
Can I talk about that? Ask a couple of
that's
questions
interesting
around
in
that to
itself,
start with,
yeah.
because it is really interesting. Do you have siblings?
Have 3 other siblings, yeah. I was the eldest, so I bore the brunt of particularly the marriage failing and feeling the responsibility of looking out for my siblings.
Was that a natural felt responsibility, or was it a responsibility that perhaps your parents might have inferred upon you?
A bit of both, I suspect. A bit of both, I suspect. Being the eldest, being uncertain, and so a bit of both, I suspect, Hanif. Yeah. But anyhow, the context of all of that and the reason for bringing that up is, fear, and we should talk a bit about fear, learning to shift from fear to love. And growing up with that survival mentality, it was tough, but there's nothing wrong with tough, right? Life isn't meant to be easy, and tough hardens you up. And I learned a lot about myself and how to build relationships, how to get through, how to be tough, and that was good. And I had to learn how to love and love me because I didn't grow up loving me, and that was what I really had to work on. Reprogram myself, if you like, because when you're hard on yourself, it's not easy. It's not easy.
No.
And I grew up being hard on myself, and this big thing we have on the top of our head, this brain of ours, we program it positively or we can program it negatively with our self-talk. And that's fear. Fear brings negative self-talk, and we program this thing on the top of our head to think negatively about self, and that takes some overcoming for people. So I'd say to anybody listening, our powerful message is be careful what you tell yourself. You bring about what you think about, and you bring about what you talk about. The language you use internally, your internal dialogue and your external dialogue does a lot, says a lot about who you are, and will also bring about a lot. And I learned that somewhere along the way, and it helped me a lot. We need, and this is the simple that you read about, and it's easier said than done, is you need to be your own best friend. You need to talk to yourself like you'd talk to your best friend or to the person you care about most in the world. And I had to learn that to reprogram me from a really tough childhood.
How do you actually do that? Talk to yourself as a best friend?
To be really conscious, it's present, being really present and listening to the little voice that sits on your shoulder, that little voice that tells you when you chastise yourself, being really aware in the moment. What am I telling myself? What is my self-talk? When I make a mistake, do I beat myself up, or do I acknowledge that was a mistake and learn from it in that moment?
That's easy to say, isn't it?
See, like most things that probably we'll talk about this morning, a lot of it's easy to say, and a great message I learned once is knowing is not doing. It's easy to say, it's easy to know. These are habits. A habit, so I had to learn the habit from Ted, you're not good enough. Ted, you're not lovable. Ted, you're not valuable. If you were, you wouldn't have let your dad beat your mum. I had to learn, reprogram that I am okay.
How long did that take you?
I'm still doing it, Hannah. I'm still doing it. It's a lifetime. It's a lifetime.
I weirdly feel a little relieved about that because I'm still working on it.
Yeah.
And I've been at it for decades.
And you're worth it.
Thank you.
You're worth it, Hanif. Yeah, we're all worth it. I'd say to anybody again, listening to or watching this podcast is you are worth it. You can reprogram it. And even on your down days, your most powerful ally is yourself and your mind and what you're telling yourself. As you say, Hanif, it's easier said than done, but we are worth it. Life is worth it. And we are okay. Even on our darkest days, to get through our darkest days, we need to be our own best friend, our own lover, if you like. So it's reprogramming from fear to love.
I think I like one of the things you've said in that it's very actionable. So when we talk about being your best friend, one of the things I'm hearing is a simple step and action you can take is listen to what you're telling yourself. That is actually being a friend to yourself.
Yep.
Because
there's two parts to it, though. There's the internal dialogue and there's my external dialogue. And I don't know about you, I'm sure with this, I can tell a lot about a person about when I listen to them speak about others, about themselves, about the world, what challenges they might be facing. Because when we're speaking, when we're thinking, we're programming, aren't we?
yes.
So, if I'm talking negatively about another person, I'm judging another person, I'm actually in fear. I'm programming my mind to live with fear rather than love. Judgment being a characteristic of fear. So it's the two aspects, what I think about and what I say. They're both equally as important in my mind to reprogramming, to programming love, not fear. This concept of love, not fear, being a huge one I learned along the way that helped in the continuing transformation.
And I want to unpack that a bit in a minute. And in this moment, just share. Look, I'm an experimenter. I experiment on myself continually. So one of the things I've experienced, and I don't know that it's true of other people, but I think it may be, I suspect it may be, is the self-talk is the precursor to almost everything. So if you can catch yourself saying something and correct it, and you can just talk to yourself, Ted Thacker, he's going to do this to me. And if that's in there and I don't correct that thought, if it's wrong, then in some way, shape or form, it comes out in language or it comes out in an action. If I catch that thought, and I've experimented with this, and rationalise, go, well, what is that about? I ask myself this, well, why am I saying that? What's behind it? So I can unpack it for myself. Maybe I've learnt to do that, so it sounds easy. But if you stop yourself and just question, why am I saying that to myself? Even I think the questioning of yourself is a friendly gesture, but the questioning of yourself allows your mind to start rationalising rather than be led by emotion.
Yep.
And that may stop you. We talk about manifesting. It's your body, your mind, your language bringing about those things you're thinking about. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, it does.
What do you think about
I'd add, sometimes, as you said, it's not always possible to stop you verbalising. So if I give you an example, on the weekend I'm on the tractor on the farm, I'm in a hurry and in the garden, and I reverse the tractor over one of my 10-year-old trees that I love.
Oops.
So in that moment, I'm pretty frustrated, I'm pretty annoyed with myself. And I'm human, so I verbalise. I tell myself something that I probably shouldn't repeat on this podcast. That's, it's kind of human, right? So at that point, I think knowing, as you say, knowing all that I know, my beautiful wife would say to me, who's been on your podcast, don't speak to little Teddy like that. Well, I'm human. Oh, that's a beautiful tree that's 10 years old and I love it and I just made a mistake. So the trick there, I think, is just to acknowledge. Okay, mate, you've made a mistake. Acknowledge the mistake. Acknowledge that I've just spoken to myself really poorly. Take a deep breath. Assess the situation. Reinforce I'm okay. Reinforce that I've made a mistake. So you capture the moment, and in that moment, acknowledge that, okay, I've spoken to myself poorly, but I'm actually okay. So we don't always get it right, but we can correct the situation.
I think that's a beautiful thing to remember, is we don't always get it right. And we can be as practiced and as polished as we want to be for decades, we still won't get it right. And we don't learn these things as habits overnight either. I can say it's taken me decades to be how I am.
Yeah.
Not where I am, how I am.
Yeah.
And it's a work in progress.
Yeah. That big word, habits. That's what we do when we program our mind, program our language, and program our regular activities, is get our habits, our regular positive habits, working in the direction we want them working in. That's a very important thing to do. Yeah.
I'm going to take us back to where we started. Okay. and we'll keep going off on tangents.
Take us where you'd like to, Hanif.
Yeah, thanks. It's very kind of you. So we got up to Ted being the eldest of the siblings.
Yes.
In a family where the parents struggled.
Yep.
Had their own struggles. Lived in Cloverdale. It was rough. You had to be tough to survive it, but it was surviving childhood.
Mm-hmm.
What happened next?
What happened next? So I got through high school reasonably, studying on the kitchen table with fighting going on around you is never the easiest thing to do. People tell me today I'm actually quite clever, but I got through high school enough to make university, and I was a recipient of a free university education, which was pretty handy for me because I wasn't good with my hands, never good with my hands, didn't know what I wanted to do, so university seemed like not a bad thing to me. And I managed to get into university and found that for the first time in my life I enjoyed studying and learning on my own terms rather than what was being force-fed at me at school. I did reasonably well at university, and at university I could focus on what I was interested in, which was finance and economics and investments and things like that. And so when you learn about the things you're interested in, to start with, you do better, and when you're not force-fed. And I was a bit distracted in university, as you are, by other things. Always enjoyed playing sport, and girls were on the agenda and things like that young boys did. But I worked full-time through, saved all the money I could through university so I could go travelling. Did reasonably well, as I said, through university, then went travelling for a few years, and travelling helped with the growing up, as it does for most young people when you get out of home and get on the road.
Just as an aside, was that relieving when you got out of home?
Scary. As a young 20-year-old who's always lived at home. It was kind of, there's a whole world out there, isn't there? And you've got to look out for yourself. And so it was, one of the great things to do in life is push yourself out of your comfort zone. I was at home and university and the place I knew, as ordinary as it was my comfort zone. And when you stay in your comfort zone, sometimes you get stuck, you're not learning. And I needed to get out of my comfort zone. One of the big L's of life is learn. Go travelling, learn. Meet new people, see new perspectives, look out for yourself, get out of your comfort zone. That was big for me. That was good for me.
Just as another aside, there's going to be a lot of asides, aren't there? The big L in common terminologies like that. It's slightly different.
Yeah, slightly different. Yeah.
You got to laugh. That's another L.
Yeah, I didn't have that L on my list. But, there you go. I talk positively to myself.
Yes, good on you. I perhaps talk too much in jest. It's been mentioned oftentimes.
It's okay.
You laugh at everything, don't you? I go, yeah, pretty much.
Not a bad thing.
Yeah. Most things that I think if you unpack them, they're pretty amusing, how we behave in the bigger context of being a bunch of dots on a rock. It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
To say, we do all this stuff, and we do a lot of stuff, human beings, but in the context of even the solar system, there's this huge thing where we're on a rock floating around a big ball of burning gas, and we're a bunch of dots. We don't really mean that much in the scheme of things.
We don't, no.
But we create all this stuff, and we carry all these burdens on our shoulders and in our minds and judgments and things. God, how much does that really matter?
Not a lot of it. We're pretty irrelevant, really, yeah.
I actually take a lot of comfort from that going, how relieving is that?
Yeah.
I mean, it lightens my load.
Yeah. You've learned well to live light, Hanif, and it serves you well. Serves you well. Yep.
It's not to say I don't take my responsibilities.
I probably
seriously.
haven't got there, if I'm honest, Yeah.
I think mostly I have. It wouldn't be true to say.
My wife would tell you that. She'd like me to laugh more and live with laughter more. Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe we all would.
Teach me.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So you went to uni.
Yes.
You started travelling.
Yes.
What happened next?
Came back and thought I needed to get a bit serious about life. Worked for Wesfarmers for a little bit in a kind of agricultural job that didn't last very long. But while I was at university, I was really lucky to work with my great mentor. He's now passed, Don Manser, for a little company called Wait Aid, which was a research company and consulting company attached to Curtin University. And Don gave me some jobs through university, some research jobs and things. And when I came back, he'd just won this international aid job to put together short courses, 12-week courses for overseas mature people, and the first one being in mining for 12 weeks. Without going into too much detail, the detail doesn't matter, but that was the first of my real jobs that I just loved, and I learnt a lot. So 16 people coming from 10 different countries here for 12 weeks, and I was the program coordinator, and I did a number of those over a few years, and all that involved. And Don, being the great leader he was, really trusted me, encouraged me, supported me to do the whole thing, from the budgeting through to putting it together, to presenting the awards, to standing up next to the Premier.
How old were you, Ted?
I was 22, 23.
Wow, that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. And over 2 years, I did a number of that, and I went through with the consulting company. When I joined the consulting company, we were turning over sub $1 million, and by the time I'd left, we were turning over close to 10, and I'd contributed to that. So I coordinated a big international veterinary conference for 3,000 people at 24 years of age, and so I did a lot early. I was pushed again outside my comfort zone by him, and so if I again, given this is kind of what have you learned, what do you know, what's your experience, find yourself a mentor who trusts you, who believes in you, who encourages you, who supports you. For me, that was the beautiful Don Manser, and I'll never forget him. And it's kind of why I eventually found myself, I think, to mentoring, because I reckon from that part of who I am is having that mentor who trusted and believed in me and gave me that responsibility early on. And it's kind of a great lesson, is age is irrelevant to what you can do and what you can achieve. And I was very young and very naive but you learn quickly. You can learn quickly.
And then what?
Then I joined the Chamber of Mines, just feeling I needed a change. There was I kind of became interested in the mining industry, and but I was a technical advisor in the Chamber of Mines for a very short period of time. My passion and love and where I wanted to go was into, I didn't know how, but back to my economics, finance, and found myself a job somehow from the mining angle through to stockbroking. I became a stockbroker in my late 20s with Hartley Poynton, and that was really interesting. You advise and teach on what you most needed to learn, and I probably needed to learn more about the studying I'd done. So that was my foray into professional services and financial advice, and in the middle of all of that, or a year or two into that, found financial planning. And I really became interested in financial planning and advising people. I loved the concept, as most people do, of helping people and advising people. And so I learned about financial planning, self-taught as it was then. It was a very fledgling industry, and I joined a company called KPMG and set up their financial planning arm in WA, and went on to become national president of the Financial Planning Association and built that business to a very respected financial planning business in Perth. So that was one of the rewarding things I've done. So that's where I kind of learned. It's interesting. I was thrown in at the deep end, empty computer, empty filing cabinet. There's your office. Kind of go for it. Talk about from support to no support, no training. I never had any leadership, management training. I made it up as I went along, to be honest with you. And learned a lot again from the school of hard knocks and from mistakes. The mistakes I made in building a business, the mistakes I made in relationships. And, that's kind of where I learned about business and building a business. And not because I was sent on any courses or given any training or anything. I just did it. And, So into my late 20s, 30s at this stage. And so I spent pretty much the first half of my career, I say, really in financial planning, broking, advising.
How long did you continue on that path for?
So it was about 12 years. Yeah. So, and it came to an end because KPMG found some conflicts between companies they were auditing and companies we're advising on, and it became hot in the kitchen, so they decided to exit. And at that stage, I had a business coach working with me, and he invited me to go down the business coaching path. So that led me into the second half of my career, if you like. Yeah. Funny how the path,
isn't it?
You know, I didn't look for business coaching or advising, and
You've been doing that for quite some time.
Quite some time now, yeah. Pretty much the last 20, 25 years. Yep.
And
which is where you say I've met a lot of people and learned a lot of things, and it's been a great privilege and probably the most enjoyable part of my career, to be honest. So,
and you were the chair of a tech group?
Chair of a tech group and business coaching, yeah.
So for me, that provides a framework of context for where Ted's come from, and maybe provides a bit of perspective on how you've learnt some of what you've learnt.
Yep.
And certainly through the coaching, for those who don't know, I think that, like any industry, coaching would have its top 5%. It'll have an average, and then it'll have a bunch of people who probably shouldn't be there.
Yep. Pretty similar in financial planning, by the way.
Yeah, I think I've found that across most industries. Our industry in finance is the same.
Yeah.
But I think it's people-driven. The competency, capability, capacity, and definitely the will and the love of doing it and helping people rather than the money. And I think that the combination of those four things generally tend to define who's that top 5%.
Yep.
They're really invested in it for other people rather than just themselves. There's something about it, and something about the helping of people in that nature that leads them just to push a bit harder, maybe outperform.
Yep. Discipline, determination, and the most important thing is values. Do they have the values? Sure, in the finance industry and the people you'd employ in the finance agency, when you're interviewing people, listen and look for the values.
Yep. It says everything, doesn't it? When you
values are our DNA. Yeah.
So the reason I bring that up is when I consider someone like yourself in the world of consulting and mentoring, it's so much more than talking about business, isn't it? Because the business is really an outcome of sorts. The business is a structure. There might be some products and you want to grow it. But that's, to some degree, a reflection of the person who's leading it. And the person who's leading it has a bunch of characteristics. Those characteristics will play out in a whole range of ways that's almost deterministic of how that business is going to go. And definitely deterministic of how their people behave. So then understanding yourself as the head of that business becomes critical. Because if you're looking for a certain outcome but your characteristics don't align, there might be trouble. Do you agree with that in your experience?
I couldn't agree with it more, Hanif. When I talk about me, the young me in business, it was one of the things I really had to learn. How I show up every day as the leader highly influences others. And it took me a while to get that. But, as the leader, the fish rots from the head. The concept of the fish rots from the head is you are the leader, and how you show up every day highly influences others. So if I'm having a bad day a bad time at home or whatever, as the leader, I need to push myself through that and realise that I am influencing the team through my behaviours, through my intent, through my actions, through my words, through my deeds. Yeah. Couldn't agree with it more.
I describe leadership as a responsibility, and it's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone, but everyone's a leader one way or another. If I use a concept of, it's interesting, this leadership concept in sport, for example, and I just use the example of AFL football. I've toyed with the captain, the leadership team, and then I'd say, well, shift from that. I think the concept is the whole team. Everybody on the team is a leader with different parts to play. And the same in a business. We're all leaders. We just play different roles.
So can you pull that apart a little bit more?
Pull it apart a bit more.
What do you mean by everyone's a leader? So let's say I'm working for you.
Yep.
And I might be fairly new to the business. I'm still learning. And everyone plays a role. I agree with that.
Yep.
And every role has a function, and that function is critical. So even though if you're new and you're learning, what you're doing has an impact. You're not there just because. You're employed because there's a function and it's important. How am I a leader?
Okay. It's a really good question. But if you think about the aspects of leadership, so leadership helps set up and guides values, for example. And the concept of, a simple concept, you are what you walk past. So if we have issues where in the business we're not living our values, our agreed behaviours, then I, as a person, do I speak up or do I sit back? You've heard me talk before about carefrontational conversations. Carefrontational conversations are called variously tough conversations, difficult conversations. I am an advocate for, in relationships, not sweeping things under the carpet, having the conversations that are necessary. So in a team, in your team, I talk about, we've agreed these values, we've agreed these behaviours, we've agreed these business processes. We're all responsible for living them, and we're all responsible for calling it out when we misstep. There's where everybody on a team or in a business can be a leader. And there are various ways, but that's a classic example that stands out to me. What do leaders do? Encourage, support, help plan. In your business, I would be surprised if you didn't tell me everybody helps plan.
Yeah, they do.
Everybody contributes to how we work together, how we innovate together, what our values are, what direction we're taking. Therefore, everybody gets to lead that. I really believe passionately teams are built of leaders. Now, as you've rightly pointed out, each person on a team has different strengths and brings different things, but not opting out of leadership is really important, I believe. opting in. I'm looking for leaders when I'm building a business with different strengths.